Hey, what's up everybody? Michael Richards here with Elite Athletic Performance. Going to get into our next video. Not going to waste a lot of time. This one could run a little bit long. We may end up chopping it into a couple different sections. So I would like to keep it as one, but we will see. The things that I wish someone had told me 10 years ago, and this is a really long list. I've tried to narrow it down. Hopefully this will help. There's 3 different subsets. We'll get into that a little bit later, but there's a little bit for everybody here. As always, who am I? I'm Michael Richards, the owner of Elite Athletic Performance in Benton, Arkansas. If you care about my background, you can go to our website, check that out. I always say it's a unique background, but not an awesome one. So, and then as always, please like and subscribe our videos. It would really help. Starting a YouTube channel, like I've said, is like pushing a sled through quicksand. So it's really tough, and every one of those likes and every one of those subscribers is absolutely precious. So I would really appreciate you going down, hitting the like button, and subscribing to our channel, turning on the notifications, all that stuff. Please comment any questions you have or any thoughts. If you want to just say whatever, leave a comment. All of that stuff helps so much with the algorithm on YouTube. I'd really appreciate that. So, hey, what's up everybody? Just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about our Patreon page. This is a way for you to support our channel with, if you enjoy the free content that's coming out, if you find it helpful. I'd really appreciate you supporting us. $5 a month is all it takes, just to help to offset some of the production costs. The information is there, but these videos take about 20 hours of dedicated work to get from planning all the way to edited and downloaded. And so anything that we can do to streamline that will make the information come out quicker. We can churn out things and put more information out there and help more people. So obviously $5 a month is all it takes. If you want to support the channel more, I'm honestly working on ways to thank you for any larger support. I thank all of you for any support, but the $25 a month all access patron will receive some free downloads once we start making digital products. The first 5 people that join that, and then if you sign up for the $50 per month, you know, maybe I'll give you a hug or whatever, but get 25% off merchandise and just basically every free digital product for now until the end of time. So I appreciate you guys watching regardless. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. First things first, a smart person, I just wanted to say that, you know, a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So, you know, you want to do both of those, but, you know, you kind of want to pay attention to what people are doing, and I am going to kind of get to some of this. A lot of this is the mistakes that I made. So, and stuff that like I said, I would have avoided some mistakes had I known that. So we'll get into that as we go. I love that quote. There are 3 subtypes of things that we're going to go over, like basically the people who will be interested in what I have to say. And obviously there are some people to be interested in all of it, but there are some that'll pertain to more than others. So the first ones we're going to go over are the coaching things that I wish, like just the straight up nuts and bolts that I wish somebody had told me 10 years ago when I was really getting into owning a facility. I've been coaching and helping people, training people for my entire adult life, but I really didn't become a facility owner until, you know, roughly 10, 12 years ago. So second one, private coaching, business owner type stuff. A little bit of that is like business marketing. Some of that is just straight up facility ownership. And then the other one is the younger me, and we'll go over that. We'll talk about all these, and like I said, hopefully we won't have to break this up into separate videos, but we might. So first point to get to, coaching. In the coaching thing, we're going to go over all the coaching stuff, and then we'll get to the business ownership one. Start tracking right now. I wish so badly I could go back and I would have, you know, what you don't realize is, especially in a private facility, but in all of them, whether you're like I said, when I say all of them, whether you're a school coach, a private coach, you're going to need those numbers to prove out stuff later on. You're going to need it to prove to the kids that the things are working, and you're going to need it to prove to the parents that it's working. And when you screw something up, you're going to need it to be like, oh, I really thought that was going to work better than that. Plus, this is such a dynamic field that we're in sports performance that the more data you can have, the better. You'll be able to go back. There are people that are going to ask, well, what was this guy doing at this point in time compared to this kid? He was throwing this hard, but he only deadlifted this. Having that information is absolutely vital, and I truly believe over time we're going to really look back and wish, especially with the invention of the pulse sleeve, the Motus sleeves, whatever you want to call it. We're going to really wish we had those things on more kids, a decade ago, to where we could have collected a lot of data and known what made their elbows blow up. Data collection can never be too early. And just remember, you don't always know why you're collecting a certain number, but it will inform decisions down the road and just be very helpful for you. So start tracking right now. This is a big one for me. I don't really know what I thought I was doing or what I was waiting on, or what if I didn't think I was good enough to do it or not, but you're going to have to build your own systems, okay? It took me forever, and honestly, it probably came about the time that I learned how to use Google Sheets, because before I knew how to use Google Sheets, like looking back, I'm like, man, that was a lot of wasted time. And if you don't use Google Sheets, if you don't know how to use that, you can be an effective coach without them, but you just don't understand how much easier it's going to make your life if you know how to use a spreadsheet. And I wish I could go back and punch myself in the face for not getting to familiarize with those things earlier. And if you are a person like me, my wife is an accountant, and she's like a ninja in spreadsheets with Microsoft Excel and all that stuff. She was telling me for years, she tried to build me spreadsheets. It did not work. I didn't understand it. It wasn't until I downloaded the Google Sheets app on my phone, because I've been an iPhone wizard for a long time, and I started tinkering with it on there, and I literally got to where I could build a spreadsheet in my phone, which now sounds absolutely ridiculous, and she still kind of rolls her eyes at that, but that actually got me comfortable with the spreadsheets. And then I moved to using a laptop. And now, like, I cannot imagine trying to build a spreadsheet on my phone, and she still like that annoys her. I annoy her a lot with a lot of different stuff, but that probably annoys her more than anything about me, is the fact that she tried to tell me for years, and now I'm like, wow, this is life changing. She's like, yeah, I was trying to tell you that a long time ago. So, anyways, customized programming is mostly a product of logistics and not physical needs. I'm not saying that there aren't things that need to be programmed around physical needs. What I'm really getting at, especially in the private setting, you're not even going to get past all of these scheduling things to even get to the physical stuff to customize for. When I first started trying to do truly customized programming, I was wanting to do assessments and shoulder mobility and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I was basically getting that information, and then it was just being put on my desk and not ever looked at again, because I was too busy customizing around little Johnny that has football practice, and then he has a lesson then he's coming in here. He might be able to come in to train today, he might not. So like building out a program that's really built around all these physical needs, it will make you crazy. It will burn you out fast on customized programming. And like I said, it's only going to be as good as their schedule will allow. So like, I actually kind of threw my hands up on it for a long time, and we're going to get into it in a different video, but there's really only one main assessment that I'm truly worried about, and that's whether they're hypermobile or stiff or tight move or loose mover. We're going to do a video on that before too long too. That's my main concern. Obviously, we will look at shoulder mobilities and some stuff like that, and we're getting a lot more into it, but you have to have a staff, you have to have some interns or something if you're truly going to assess and build that out. Unless you have a very small group, it's really tough to do a lot of mobility screening and stuff like that, and then building around that. So if you're going to do that, you have to have a system for that too. And so like I said, you just have to sit down and go, okay, what's happening here when I do this? Why is this information getting tossed on my desk and never being looked at again? How can I make that not happen? And that's really how your systems will get built. So, and you'll learn how to customize. So like I said, kind of went back to the previous point on that, but with the customized programming, it's way more. I'll be looking at, like for instance, our volleyball girls, I'm looking way more at how to just try to bulletproof their knees for all of the overuse that they're going to get, because half of them are going through an off-season program at school and then going to their club volleyball in the afternoons, and the school volleyball wants to cover their ears and pretend that nothing's going on outside of school, and the club volleyball, they want to cover their ears and pretend nothing's going on while they're at school. And then they're still trying to come to me, and I'm like, what am I? So really all I'm trying to do is undo some of the damage that's being done between those two entities. So that's where a lot of the customized programming, it comes down. That's what I mean by the logistics of programming. So, and we may actually do a video, if you're watching this and you feel like that would be a helpful topic, like how we program for volleyball girls, that would let me know, like comment, say something, let me know you're watching. It's kind of like crickets when y'all don't tell me who's watching. I don't know who to speak to, who to help. So this is another big one for me. I made this mistake one time. I'll never make it again. When you're learning from your colleagues and from coaches that have been doing it for a long time, it's way more like a buffet. You can't go and overhaul your entire program. No matter how good you think somebody else's program is, it just won't work. Everybody's system is different. Everybody's setup is different. Everybody's equipment is different. Everybody's athletes are different. Everybody's time, everything is different, okay? So you can't go overhauling. I went to Eric Cressy's Elite Baseball Mentorship in 2014. It's phenomenal what they do, right? I get back and I'm like, okay, and I tried to be Eric Cressy. Well, they've got a staff of like 10 people up there. They charge a lot of money to where they can pay that staff, you know, and I thought I could, because I think I'm Superman, I was gonna be Eric Cressy and his staff and do it all for $100 a month. And it's just not possible. So there's an old saying in bass fishing, you guys know that I like to bass fish as much as I like to coach. You can't catch another man's fish. What that means, and it's so true, people can try to steal your information, or they can see you fishing a certain spot or a certain way or a certain bait or whatever, and they don't know every single nuance to why you're doing what you're doing. So if you're catching them, it's really hard for them to come over and steal your information or do what you're doing and repeat what you got. Or it's really hard when you see somebody doing something. Just because I see this person fishing this particular bait at this particular time, like he might have a different line size on there, he might be fishing a shell bed that I can't see that's attracting the fish there, that he knows where to cast exactly to. There's a ton of different little nuances there, and I will completely miss that just trying to duplicate the surface details. So be careful of that. Build your own systems. Pick and choose like a buffet when you learn from somebody, and go like use it like that to implement into the program. Be looking at the information and say, oh, I could really use that. That would be very helpful, and pull that in and build it into your system. So last one, I think. Yeah, last one on the coaching side. Passionate or not, you've got to be careful. You will burn out. And I'm talking to you as a person who learned this the hard way, okay? For years, the people that know me personally know, like, I mean, I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times in some of my videos now about how I love to bass fish. That's always been there, but I was such a workaholic, I wasn't even comfortable saying it out loud. So people are like, when'd you get into bass fishing? I'm like, well, I've been doing that since I was 10 years old. But I was such a workaholic, I didn't feel like I deserved to have a break. And so I almost snuck around and didn't tell people. I know, I'm a psycho, but that I didn't want people to know that I had a hobby, and that's dangerous. You've got to be careful with that, okay? And you're human. I know you don't believe me, but you are human, and you will burn out. So you've got to be careful with that, all right? So next one, moving on, private coach business ownership. I have to be careful with some of these to not turn it into an event session, and I'll be honest with that. I get very frustrated with this area, and I think that's probably normal and par for the course for every business or private facility owner. But one of the things that really that I struggle with to this day, and I really haven't been able to put it into words until recently, is that your ability to be successful depends on a teenager's willingness to work and do extra work and follow directions. That's not exactly their strong point. And so you've got to be careful with that. I guess I'm not necessarily saying that I would do anything any differently, but it is something that I do wish I had mentally and emotionally been prepared for a little bit earlier in my career. as you get older, that stuff starts to wear on you a little bit more. I'm 42 years old. You know, when you're 25 and you are coaching or you own a facility, you're just like, as long as their check doesn't bounce, whatever, you know. But results start mattering even more when you get older. That type of stuff just wears on you a lot more. And so you've just got to be careful and be aware of that going into it. And I guess emotionally be prepared for it, if nothing else, because it is kind of tough to swallow sometimes. All right, so you're going to think that your biggest competitors are other facilities, and to an extent, I guess they are. But really and truly, your biggest competitors are going to be your athletes' friends, the ones that can't or won't train with you at your facility, you know, whether they can't afford it or they just don't want to or whatever. They're going to be, you know, even your kids that support you and love you, their friends are still going to win out. And especially if your training facility involves like the weight room, or really if it's just even batting cages or something, like you try to run hitting lessons, hitting whatever, hitting lessons would be a little bit different. But particularly if you deal in the strength and conditioning area, Planet Fitness is going to win out with their buddies, especially when they can do their own thing. And it would be the same with you and me. I don't blame them. I get it, you know. But, you know, when you got to think of it like that. And this is one of those things I never thought about when I was really starting to get into this, is that they, you know, teenage boys, they have certain things they want to do in the weight room, just like I did when I was that age, right? And I don't necessarily stop it, but I always tell the guys, like, I'm going to get what I want, and then you can get what you want. So I don't care if they do bicep curls until they crap themselves or whatever, but they're going to do my work first. And, you know, they're teenagers, so that doesn't always sound like that great of a deal to them. So just know that going into it, that's going to be a problem. You're going to have kids when they're younger and their mom and dad are dropping them off and forcing them to go. That's one thing, but when they hit that age to where they can drive, it's going to be tempting to just not, you know, and then they can be like, hey, I'll just go lift up at Planet Fitness. It's what, $10 a month. Well, I know if you're a private facility owner and you've got a weight room, you're charging more than that, obviously, for all the programming and everything. So that's going to be something you're going to deal with. So be prepared for that. The other part, your biggest competitors are the inherent time suckers and the inherent energy suckers in their life. And what I mean by that with time suckers, this is an unprecedented time we live in. Like, kids, I hate to say it like this, but like I said before, I'm 42 years old and I don't really pull punches anymore. There are way too many grown-ups that have figured out that kids are cash cows and they can just use those parents like their own ATMs. And it is what it is. You got to understand that going into it, that is going to be a big problem or a big area you've got to work around. You know, there are certain places that aren't really worried about the quality of the work. They just know that they can add something and call it strength and conditioning or speed and agility, whatever buzzword they want to use, and they can charge a little extra for whatever the team that their kid is, the kid is playing with. You know, there's a little bit more money to be made. So you're going to have to be careful of that. And then, you know, the coaches, the school coaches are implementing a lot more weightlifting and stuff like that for the kids that don't come to places like this. So they're spending more energy at school. It's harder to get more done or productive work done when they get out of school, you know. So you just have to know that going into it. Like I said, the time and energy suckers, there's a lot of them involved in there. You know, kids we weren't pulled this many directions when we were growing up. There weren't this many options, you know. So you just got to be aware of that and be ready to evolve and have other revenue sources and things in place to supplement that. I've heard Kyle Bodie say several times that they lose money on their training. The plyo balls and everything is what keeps the doors open. Now that was probably 5 years ago. They're probably doing fine now. They're doing fine regardless. But you just got to know that you can't depend on one revenue source if you're going to run a successful facility. So be aware of that going into it. And this kind of goes back to what I just said. You got to remember the budget always wins. And I don't think anybody that's watching this will be in this category, but you got to remember that you're going to have, if you do great work, you're gonna have like parents of previous athletes and things like that. They love what you're doing, or even kids that, you know, they're previous athletes, but like I said, the kid has gotten to an age where they drive now and they're going to work out with their buddies instead of coming and training with you. The parents and everything love you. They love you. They support what you're doing. But remember, the budget always wins. Their family budget is gonna win over you. It might just be slightly. They love you and all that, but they're not gonna keep paying your $150, $200 a month, whatever, however much you charge when their kid's not coming. And you gotta remember that it is great to have all their support, but as you know, it doesn't, the electric company doesn't accept that as forms of payment. And so, like I said, have revenue sources in place to where you can substitute or subsidize some of that, you know, to where there's, you know, you're not living and dying with every single athlete that comes in the door and then eventually stops training with you. This is another one that I've gotten better at. Sometimes you have to fight it, but coaches, private coaches, are super bad about it. Is snide social media posts on snide social media posts will make you look dumb. I wish I had understood that at an earlier age. I understand it now a little better, but sometimes it's still hard. You just got to leave that out. All right, it doesn't help anybody, and people don't know what you're talking about. They just think you're smug, and it won't help. All right. This is the last one here for the private coach business owners. You got to know going into it, especially if you're in the strength and conditioning, if you have a strength and conditioning type facility, the turnover rate is absolutely absurd. We have tested in over the last like 3 years. When I say tested in, I'm talking about the initial assessment. I think the last count, we had tested in almost 500 athletes over the last 3 years. We've never gotten above 75 or 100 at one time. So you can kind of do the math on that. Like, people will contact you, they will get their kid in, and then they'll go, oh crap, we don't have enough time for this. And then we don't use contracts. So, and I hope we never do. So they'll do a month or two, see that their kid can't find the time to do it, and then they're going to drop out because they can't make it. And I don't want them spending money that they're not getting return on, you know. So I don't blame them at all. I'm glad that they do figure that out. But just know, when you test an athlete in, like, maybe 1 out of every 25 is going to be there and continually pay the monthly fee or however you bill for more than like 3 or 4 or 5 months. It's just not a long-term thing. And kids graduate, they go to college, kids quit sports. That happens at an alarming rate these days. When they quit sports, they're not going to continue coming, you know. So there's just a ton of turnover. So like I said, for like the 3rd time now, have other revenue sources in place. It's really hard. You know, it's really hard to own I told somebody the other day, honestly, it's really hard to be completely honest and not, what's the word? To keep the integrity of your product and still make a profit in a business like this without selling a product that you technically kind of know is bullcrap that a parent will just buy. It's really hard, you know, because you know you could line up the bullcrap, the eyewash, and sell it and make a lot of money. But I won't do it. And so it is very hard to maintain the integrity of your product and maintain the lights being turned on. So just like I said, for the millionth time, have extra revenue sources in place. Always be looking for those little ones. Don't turn your nose up at it if it's a small revenue source, because we want success by 1,000 check marks. You know, you're not going to have one big check mark. One big check mark goes away if that revenue source leaves. You don't want to depend on that one big check mark. You want a bunch of little check marks, right? All right, so last 2, this is the 3rd subset of it, younger me. So of all the things that I wish people had told me at a younger age, you have to be so good they can't ignore you. Like, it's the only way. And this is the thing that you hear people talking about, kids have changed. No, kids hadn't changed. There's just, you know, it's the same way it's always been. Little Johnny's coming to telling you about playing time. If you're a high school athlete, or even younger, and you're telling me about playing time and how, you know, so-and-so, I'm as good as him, and not, well, you just answered your question. You have to be better than them. You can't just, why would the coach take a risk on you if you're just as good? Like, really, for real, why would he do that? So, you just answered your own question. You've got to be so good, the coach has no choice, because coaches are gonna wanna win. I'm sorry, they do. I know a lot of you don't believe that. Coaches want to win. And if you will be so good that they can't ignore you, you will play, okay? Understand that. That's all there is to it. So don't be coming to me, just know if you're coming to me telling me about playing time, that's what's going through my head. So little insight on that. And the last thing, all right, the attitude ability matrix. And this is something, I guess I coined this phrase. You gotta understand this. I'm amazed how many guys don't understand this, and girls, but guys mostly. So this is the ability, or the attitude ability matrix right here. On over here, this number right here, these on the left side is the ability level. Down here is attitude in red. All right, so 1 is a great attitude. 2, and that's actually supposed to be 10. That's why I don't delegate this stuff. 10 is it's supposed to be a 10. 10 is Antonio Brown after leaving the revenue office. That's a bad move. That's a bad teammate. If you know, like, I'm just having some fun there, but like just 10 is a bad attitude. All right. So coaches, whether they will admit it or not, use this inherently. They don't have this matrix, but this is subconsciously what it looks like. The higher your ability level, okay, the more of this red they are going to deal with. And that's the truth. Now every coach has a different, you know, like their allowances are different, but every human being really in society has this to a certain level. You know, if your girlfriend's really, really pretty, you'll put up with a little bit more crazy. You know, it's kind of the same thing. And so understand this, there are just a lot of guys running around with like a 5-6 attitude and like a 4 ability. That's not going to play, man. Like, you got to be aware of this, okay? You got to be aware of that right there. And when you, like, really and truly, you need to keep your attitude down here in the 1 and the 2. But like, we live in the real world, like, you better be really good if you're going to have this attitude out here in this range. And there's just some of you just don't understand that. So hopefully, I didn't understand it. Hopefully you understand it a little bit better now, and you can use that, or at least cool your jets a little bit, you know, and maybe make your ability level. If you're going to be a jerk, you're going to have to get in here and get training and get your ability level up so you can do that. How about that? So, all right, that is the last of it. Please like and subscribe. 273 subscribers when I took this screenshot. I think it's higher than that, but those are rookie numbers. We got to get those numbers up. I really appreciate you watching this video, and just like I said, like and subscribe, support our Patreon page, check out the book on Amazon. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next video.